You have
hello. Hey, Savannah. Hi, Ariel. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me just turn down all my volumes and such. I'm going to try to not pay attention to that. Okay. All right. Anyways. Sure. We can do that if need be. There's some new news that we have. Let's see here. Can you guys see and hear me okay? Hopefully so. Hey, Michael. All right, I need to adjust a few things. Let's see if I can adjust them. Hope everyone's doing well. All right, I think that will do it. Yeah, apologize for the late start. It's one of those things. As you can tell from my scruffy look, it's been busy and kind of chaotic. Now, can you guys hear me okay? Any other background noises can you hear? Yes, no, maybe so. Can you see all right? How's the video? How's the audio? Because this is all part of you being the audience watching. This is your participatory. I'm not going to say duty because it's not duty, but your addition. So your insight matters. So you can tell me if everything's good. Is the lighting okay? I know I got the lighting police on point. And she could be very, very, very difficult when she said, "What lighting? Better lighting! You need better lighting." See? as I get a comment. No, I do not have a light in front of me. One momentito, people. All right, let me work on that for a second. I'll be right back. But thank you guys for holding on and being here and being part of the pre as well as the during show. And I thank you all for being here. So, one moment. I know. High tech, high budget show, let me tell you. But I will say this, while all of you can still probably hear me, there is some new developments coming up, as I have teased in other shows. However, but they're definitely more in the works now than they were before. So we will. Hopefully this will work. I hope. I know. It's insanity, I tell you. How's that? Is that better? Hello, Pamela. Is the lighting better? I have a very excitable and passionate producer. Yay, okay. Low budget tech, let me tell you. One thing I will say, right from the get-go, if you have the type of personality to want to say a message, right? If you want to get out there and speak a message, if you have a charity, you have something that touches your heart, or you have a story to share, don't stop yourself from live streaming. It is a space that could be very daunting, and it could be horrible, and it could be wonderful. And I've experienced all the above. So I can tell you that. It can get very difficult. You will get judged and criticized because, unfortunately, the world is a very judging and very criticizing place. And unfortunately, it doesn't help by having people that are in leadership roles across the planet that think about their own selfish needs as opposed to actually doing right for everyone, because we're all on the same boat. Some days it may seem like it's sinking. Some days it may seem like it's a luxury ship. And some days you just wonder if there's going to be wind because you ran out of gas. Yes. One more second, people. These are things that I should do pre-show, but since things have been crazy and I haven't even had time to shave, this is what happens. So one moment while we tweak something. Just saying. Okay. Are we better? Good Lord. Yes, all this pre-prep. Now, this is the whole part of, and yes, you're absolutely right. It's the me complex. So getting back on task with the conversation, all of us together, and being someone that I connect with people internationally every single day, not even kidding, every single day, I see global problems and hear global issues and have global conversations from people all over. And this is not just an American problem. This is not just a British problem or a Polish problem or an Italian problem. It is, or a Korean problem. This is an issue that is all over. So it is a global problem. It is a human problem. So ultimately, this is really important. So part of the reason why we have this show, and of course it's the 80th episode today, it's something where I'd rather be the light that shines through the darkness. Granted, it could be a dim light some days, and some days it's a bright light. Life is messy. However, despite life being messy, we all have a responsibility to do our best, whether it's, helping one person or just getting out of the way, if that's what needs to happen, one way or shape or form. Now, there are a couple of things that I have not spoken about in my social media, and that has been absolutely on purpose because there's too much hate involved. And the whole, and the country as a whole is very divided. So I don't get into that stuff. And I'd rather, again, be the light that shines through the darkness, whether it be dim or bright, than be another proponent on more hatred or racism or separatism or agendism or anti-humanism, because that's what it seems like it is a lot. And as much as you may see on my social media that I'm not really for society, as much as I don't put a lot into society as itself, but as a tribe, that's a whole different reason. It's a whole different purpose. So that's really, really important. And yes, I have to give major props to my producer, Ariel. She's done and doing a fantastic job making sure that the back one moment. One second. Yeah, we're tweaking this work stuff. We're tweaking that. We're gonna tweak that, and we're gonna, how about we'll do this? How about this? Watch. Ooh, look at that. That's better. Yes. See, now this is part of the that don't mind the man behind the curtain, like in Oz. This is the curtain. This you don't see. Thank goodness, because it might be scary. But anyway. But as a tribe, it's entirely different than being society. Society has been twisted and for its own agendas for a long, long time. So whether you're society-centric, whether you're self-centered, whether you're whatever it is, or whether you're eccentric, that can stay. So anyway, but yes, but us being part of the same tribe is really, really important to me. Reason being, if you see someone, and this is not actually the topic of the day today. It's not part of the topic. But this is just a little thing, and this may be this may go into editing with a couple of moon sites potentially, i.e. Mr. Producer. I have a question and a challenge for any of you. Question and a challenge, or a challenging question. The question is, if you found someone falling on the street, doesn't matter how old they are, doesn't matter what color they are, doesn't matter what gender they are, doesn't matter if they're male, female, or transgender, doesn't matter if they're skinny or fat, doesn't matter if they have big ears or no ears, or a big nose or no nose. What would you do? Would you help that person? Would you do nothing? Now, what society dictates is, God forbid, I don't want to get involved in that, because if they fall and then they sue me, and then God forbid what's going to happen, and I'm going to be in all kinds of trouble. That's society's view most of the time. And again, I can't speak for society because I am not really big part of it. However, most empathic or most caring folk would say, are you okay? That's not litigious. That's not getting super involved. Maybe helping them up. And thank you very much for saying that, Zavana. But you know what, too? You come from a different mindset. A lot of people would tend to look away. And I will say this, and this is, again, this is not part of the topic for today, but this is something that's important. There are times that even I, in my ignorance, there have been times, and this is pre-trip to South Africa, by the way. There are a couple of times in my life where I saw someone homeless or someone doing worse off than myself, and I walked by and ignored them. I didn't wave, I didn't smile, I didn't even look at them. It's like, can't see it, don't see it. Immediately after those moments, I felt like the biggest douche nozzle. I felt like the biggest a-hole on the planet. I didn't even have the balls to smile. Not even smile at the person. Not even just nod. Or say hi as I walked away or as I walked by. Now, for the sake of sounding religious for a moment, and Michael is bringing it up. In the history of the Bible, because I believe it's a phenomenal history book with lots of things that you can apply in your life. A lot of sacred texts you could apply the stories to your life or the history. And I actually think that Jesus was pretty cool, pretty awesome prophet, and pretty cool dude overall. He was a hippie, social activist way back when, and a pretty awesome guy. However, he mostly hung out with tax collectors, prostitutes, whores, street people, homeless people. Why did he not hang out with the beautiful people? It's pretty much because that wasn't his duty, that wasn't his life purpose. So that's just, without getting all into religion, because, people can get all kind of funny with religion too. He was for the underdog. And that I hold that pretty high on my list of pretty awesome things to do. So in that same vein of things, the few times, you know, and like I said, prominently, I only remember it being a couple of times, but I walked by someone that was worse off than myself, and I realized how horrible it was to do that. And after that, I made a point to say hello. And if I even had the time, I actually would sit with them and talk with them a little bit, have a conversation with them. And these are people regarding, they could have been mentally ill. They could have just been homeless. They could have been whatever. They could have just had a bad day. They may not have been homeless. They could have just had a bad day. But the whole point of it is, it's really, really important to be the best person you can be, whether people are looking or not, whether you have a camera on you or not. We all have a responsibility to kind of just do some good or get out of the way. You know, very much like people walking, driving on the highway. You're either in the way or get out of the way. If you're on the high speed lane and you're driving, you know, 15 miles slower than you should be, then so be it. But that's just a little bit of moon sights for you as for regarding some of the things that are bouncing through my head, stream of consciousness right now, right this moment. So now at this point we have 6 people in. Feel free to say hello so I can give you a proper shout out and hello. And we're going to, as soon as we're done with that, then we'll start. We'll get the show started formally. Now also too, some new things coming up. Also, Inside with Moonshadow Journeys will be happening very, very soon. So new announcements. Towards the end of August, you will actually see me live out on the West Coast. So West Coast 2.0 people. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be pretty awesome. So also, in the fact that you haven't seen Inside the Moonshadows, the pilot edition first, you will be seeing that as soon as I can possibly get it out there, as soon as I can get it loaded up and uploaded, and I cannot blame my producer for that. Honestly, I cannot blame anyone but myself, because it's falling on me for my part of the responsibility of doing what I have to do. My part of it, I haven't fully completed yet. So I need to do that to get this going. So we're going to really, it's going to be band-aided, hodgepodge to the best of my ability, but I will tell you 2.0 will be better, a lot more footage, and everything is going to be so much better. So yeah, I will not blame anybody else. I can't even blame myself really, because you know what, life is messy. You know, it's just how life is. Life is messy. Some days I can fully shave, some days I can't. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. So that's coming up. Also, of course, even in the high-tech department, some new things are coming around the corner as well, with lots of help and lots of support from people like you. And for a second, I'm sounding like PBS. With viewers like you, you are incredible help and support to this channel. And no, but it's true. For the sake of sounding like Mr. Radio. Yes. And you're moving again? Good Lord. So yeah, so life does happen. And there's going to be some new upgrades coming up. I'm looking forward to them. Now, granted, with these new upgrades, when these new upgrades happen, guess what? Moon's going to have to start really shaving and keeping it up, because now we're going to go into HD, high definition life. Boom. So all of this is going to have to do an upgrade as well. Scary. Very, very scary, but it's going to be due. Yes, and I send good juju to you, Savannah, and hopefully, now where are you now? If you don't mind sharing. Well, I don't know about 4K. It's definitely going to be HD for sure. Thankfully, there have been there's been a lot of support. There's a bit. Oh, Denmark. That's right. You're in Denmark. See, international, part of our international insight peeps. But yes, it will be more HD, which means it will probably be 720, 720 or higher, and then it's going to be, you know, audio, all that good stuff is probably going to be kicking it up a notch, as Emerald would say. So we're going to be doing that. So that's going to be some new stuff coming around. Also, too, as far as the live streaming platforms, I still plan on going through YouTube Live. Now, down the road, I may be also going back to live streaming on one other platform. I'm still trying to figure that out. Facebook Live hasn't been fantastic, and I'm still trying to troubleshoot what it could be. So before I go blame the FB or the strength of FB, I'm going to find out exactly what it is. I do know that working with other live streaming platforms, I can actually do it easily and efficiently, i.e. Periscope, WhatsApp, even though that's not really live streaming, that's more person to person. But other platforms and other ways are working. So as far as that's concerned, so the new stuff's coming up. And of course, a lot of support has been given to myself and Insight with Moonshadow, the show, because I'll tell you, it's really a lot of your support, whether it be emotional or just being here every week. A lot of it has been super helpful. So I want to say thank you to all of you for being here weekly, sharing on social media, being here, sharing your story, you know, or stories, sharing your experiences, all of that. And I want to say thank you for all of you and what you're doing, because, you know, without your good juju, it would be it'd be lonely. It'd be a bit lonely. And my life purpose would be more towards a little different direction, I think. So I want to say thank you for that. All right. So let's see. I think we got everything. So show changes, tech updates. Oh yeah. Also, there is work of collabs and sponsors as well. Still working on that aspect. So if you know of any particular people that would be interesting, any ideas, I am all for listening and considering ideas. So if you find that there might be a good sponsor for Insight with Moonshadow, and you're like, hey, you know what? You know, it'd be a really good fit for you, such and such. And I can't divulge who I'm looking at the moment, but I'm looking at a couple of different ones, and I'm looking at big, hopefully big moves, not only with sponsorships, but also making Insight with Moonshadow much bigger. So I want to say thank you for being here. So yes, so we're going to start this this broadcast. It is July 24th, 2017, and this is episode 80 of Insight with Moonshadow. Crazy to think. That's crazy to believe that this is the 80th episode. 80 weeks. 80 weeks. That's just phenomenal. So, all right, let's get this party started. Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow, an integrative therapist, intuitive shaman, and CHI-vangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field internationally. And my intention here is to guide and empower others so we can be a change in the world today. To cut through the darkness and actually really make changes. Whether they're small baby steps or huge monumental leaps, one way or the other. I am here to help and to learn and to guide and to teach you, as well as you are to also teach and guide me as well. So I want to thank you all for being here on Insight with Moonshadow, episode 80, here at on the 24th of July, 2017. So now, in my mind, of course, it's a microcosm of crazy stream of consciousness stuff. There are a lot of different topics that pop in and pop out. Of course, being an intuitive and being an empath, I have to go with what feels right. Now, as much as I have a massive list of topics that I want to broach, sometimes the topic needs more than just me. Sometimes it needs more preparation. Sometimes it needs a location, which will be coming up. Sometimes it matters. All the other parts of the minutia matters to make it bigger or more important. I'm not saying that any show is lesser important than the other, because if we're all sharing the topic and we're all making or having the conversation, that means it's important. And a lot of it comes from source and spirit and my instincts and my intuition as well. And I try to be on point with the topic each week. So, now this week, the topic was, this is something that's been kind of like an ongoing thing. And there may be one or two or a couple of you that we may have conversed about it or had conversations or discussions about this in the past. But so the topic today is all about, now we all have our passions and we all have our motivations, but there's one thing that we also have that could be good or bad. And predominantly it's not always good. So we're looking at potentially the shadow side of this topic. And the topic is triggers. What triggers you? Now, in previous broadcasts, we've spoken about and we've learned about, nature versus nurture. Who are you really? Your own self-identity. Are you a follower or a leader? All of that. Living your life out, living your life out loud. All of that. But today's show topic is regarding triggers. Now, this is by no means meant to single out anyone, because we all have them. And I can honestly say, I myself have had quite a few triggers that I've had to systematically get rid of or change the switch to something else that was far more productive. So, this is a bit of definitely along the mind, body, spirit, soul, psychology, mental, fitness, wellness situation. Now let's start with the definition of a trigger. Now this is the psychological definition of a trigger. Now a trigger is something that sets off a memory tape or flashback, transporting an individual back to the event of his or her original trauma. Wow, that's a mouthful, right? Now, this can also be the precursor to PTSD. This could also be a situation that changes the person in how they live. So it depends on the situation, on the trauma. It may not even be a trauma per se. It could have been something that didn't necessarily happen to you. You could have heard about it. Now, a lot of people that are empathic, all you have to do is feel it. Now, if you go ahead and attach it to yourself, then that can cause some kind of emotional or physical, mental trauma, or even, and it can turn psychological into a trauma. So now, I'm going to try not to get into major clinical aspects of it, even though I am a clinical hypnotherapist and I am a therapist. However, this is going to be for everyone to really grasp and look at and understand. So this is not about, you know, speaking out how the large words that may be used or not. It's not even the issue. It's really about how we can change these triggers. Now, the trigger could be good or bad. Absolutely, Michael. And this is one of the reasons. So now let's look at positive possible triggers. Now, let's say, for example, we have a memory. The memory is a memory with a loved one that has passed. You're not thinking sad about them, but you miss them. Now, the trigger may be barbecue. You may have been through many barbecues with them. So you smell hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill. So now what you do is you go ahead and smell the hamburgers on the grill. And then all of a sudden it transports you to a moment in time. You could have been 2, you could have been 22, you could have been 52. It all depends on the trigger and the moment of time that you get transported to. A lot of people tend to get triggered to the younger age, a younger age, and the reason why is because when we're younger, we don't necessarily have the full understanding or control, or the full mindfulness, and that's part of us being young souls in that body, to learn and to adapt, and we don't always adapt as quickly as we could. So now, say for example, the smell. It could be like there are times that I've done readings with people, and I would intuit a smell. Now that smell was nowhere near me, in the location, but that smell is a trigger. So this is another part of that. We're looking at the trigger, right? So now the trigger, it's a trigger. The person on the other side is giving me a trigger to pass on to the person I'm reading for or doing healing work on. So at that point, if I remember during one particular reading, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, however, this person I was reading, I had smelled flowers, and lots of, and it was a wafting smell of flowers, and there were no flowers that would have emitted such a scent in the room I was working out of. In fact, I don't even remember there being any plants in the room, other than I think there was a lily. I think there was a lily or an orchid. I'm trying to remember. There was, I think in the corner, there's a Buddha with a lily or an orchid in the corner of the room. However, those memories, that trigger, as soon as I had mentioned it and reported what I picked up, you know, relayed the message to that person automatically just their eyes opened up. They're like, oh my God, you know. And I was like, how does this connect with you? And this was one of their grandparents. This was the grandmother that was an avid gardener, loved to garden, and she gardened well into her elder years, and she always kept a beautiful garden. whether she was able or not, whether she was physically able or not, she always nurtured her garden. And that was the trigger for them to know that their grandmother was there and present to give her messages. So now that's just one aspect of a trigger. Now you can have triggers of many different types. You can have sense of touch. You can have sense of smell. You can have a visual trigger. You can have a locational trigger. For a long time, because of serious hurt, there were places that I couldn't go because that triggered memories. And it took a long time to work through those triggers, if you will, to make them different, to change them. Auditory. Now, for example, like with sound, there are particular songs that even now I will listen to, and it can cause a positive or negative effect. Some of them I could change to a positive because I love the song, and then part of them still to this day bring up where I was, who I was with, what was going on, what was the weather, what was the situation, what was the atmosphere of the situation, everything. Now that's the downside to having a good memory as far as that goes, to getting that kind of trigger. And it being such a vivid memory. So a lot of that can happen. We find a lot of that happens with, say, for example, animals. If an animal was traumatized by a male or a female, and if they looked a certain way, that might trigger the animal. Now, yes, I bring up animals, and we're talking about not just humans, though. Triggers are across the board. So we can have not just triggers as humans, we can have triggers as animals as well. So if your dog smells hot dogs on the barbecue, it's going to salivate. It's a trigger. Granted, it's a yummy trigger, but it's a trigger nevertheless. It's a delicious trigger. So looking at it from that perspective. So if you went ahead and had like the most phenomenal meal, and I think this is a perfect example. I went with one of my bestest people on the whole entire planet that I love dearly. I was taken to my birthday, a birthday dinner. And I went to this fine dining, high-end restaurant. And I felt like I was a celebrity because it was it was a gorgeous restaurant. The food was amazing. And this was going back maybe time-wise, I'm a little fuzzy. I'm not gonna lie. I want to say maybe about maybe 5-6 years ago, give or take. But I remember the smell of the food like it was yesterday. I remember the taste of the food like it was yesterday. I could tell you exactly what I had. Now, you know, and just for the sake of sharing this really wonderful memory, and now I'm getting triggered. There's the good trigger. Now I'm getting triggered on the memory. It was mako shark with coconut scented jasmine rice with mixed vegetables. I believe it was a summer squash and sweet potato. I'm almost positive on that one. That and maybe a little gray on. With Coppola wine. It was a Meritash, I believe, prior to the claret that I'm used to nowadays. And prior to, for the appetizer, it was a bay scallop chowder with scallops that were like this big, like big, massive scallops, and they were in the bowl. And there was a good amount of them in the bowl. And It ruined me for clam chowder. I love clam chowder, but scallop chowder, OMG, let me tell you, it was virtually almost a religious and sexual experience. And yes, I said that live, aloud. Seriously, it was that good. Talk about triggering amazing memory. So now this is one of the major points here, is it was a good trigger, and it was a fond memory. I will not be changing that trigger. Why? Why change that kind of trigger? Because it was amazing. It was Mako shark. It was delicious. It was a nice thick steak, you know, of Mako shark. It was phenomenal. I remember the male waiter, even though I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was also super helpful, and I was in Newport at the time. So the food was absolutely amazing. And I've been to that restaurant, I think one other time. I may have been there twice, but one other time. But that was a hell of a trigger. So that's an example of a good trigger. How all of that, the sights, the smells, the ambiance, the view. The restaurants were impeccably designed. Older restaurant, 5-star, fine dining, delicious. But that's an idea of a good trigger. And I remember that. Now, granted, let's go backtrack for a second. So now taste could be good or bad, right? So anything that's related to a trauma or a wonderful event. Certain foods, alcohol. Now, I'll give you an example on a negative trigger. One Halloween, one Samhain, I was with friends, and we decided to drink tequila, and not good tequila either. It was Pepe Lopez tequila. Yeah, and I'm not going to go into detail. Now, I remember the details of that too, but I am not going to share all those details. But I will tell you this: we drank quite a bit of this Pepe Lopez tequila. Now, I want to talk about taste triggers. Now, granted, I didn't get sick. I didn't even get really trashed, but I got a very upset stomach over it. My stomach did not like tequila for a while. Now, here's the trigger. Every time I'd even smell tequila, whether it was a tequila sunrise or a tequila shot, whatever it was. Now, granted, I'm not a big drinker. I like quality. I'd like to have a good whiskey or a nice glass of wine or a good beer, whatever, a good ale or a cider. However, it's not to the point of quantity. It's really the quality. Eating it with a meal or enjoying with friends, being responsible, all of those things. Having a good time without it getting super messy. But the whole point of that was when I went ahead and drank, I had a taste trigger of this Pepe Lopez and a smell trigger. So smelling tequila made my stomach roll a little bit. So I didn't feel it was uncomfortable, an uncomfortable feeling. It was like a stomach. You know how when you have your stomach rolls like, you know, like whoa. That pasta may have been, that sauce may have been a little too rich for me or something. A lot of times you can have that with fried food as well. But the point of the matter was, it affected me and triggered me for quite some time. Now, I am someone that enjoys tequila and did enjoy tequila. I like a good tequila with a Corona. So, needless to say, I don't think I've ever drank Pepe Lopez tequila ever again. That is very different. However, I have drank tequila, and I stick with the more quality tequilas. But it took time for me to switch the trigger. And what to get to switching the trigger. And we'll get to switching triggers and changing triggers. Positive, negative, negative, positive, and all that in shortly, in a few. But here you go. You have a good example of a good trigger, i.e., my birthday meal, and then we have a negative trigger. i.e. Halloween and Pepe Lopez. Now, granted, the friends I was with, phenomenal. I had the greatest time. It was an amazing thing. Very spiritual people, and I haven't spoken to them in a while. I should probably reach out. But it was a hell of a memory, a good memory for me to remember this way back when, long before all this gray. I'll give you a hint of how far back it was. So taking a look at that, we all have these positive and negative experiences or triggers, and triggers that attach to these experiences. So there are people potentially in this broadcast that have more than likely have had tough breakups, whether you were married or not married. I myself also had very difficult endings of relationships, unfortunately. So, henceforth, where auditory triggers would happen, a certain song, if that song was playing, more than likely, all of us have an inner soundtrack or dialogue where there's certain songs that could be playing in the background, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, no, not this song. So really, if you think about it, way back when, these triggers can affect us in major ways. So say, for example, you have a certain song that was playing. You were looking at food. You're looking at who you were with, the food you were eating, what you were drinking, the music that was going on in the background, all of that. Take a look at and think about all of those things that were working within ourselves. And then it all goes to crap. Think about this. You're in love. Everything seems wonderful. You're delusional with love. And then it all goes to shit. You break up. Locationally, you can have triggers. You don't like going to certain places, certain restaurants, certain towns. You can't have certain meals because of it. Now, this is where the tricky part is. Then comes the trigger. Right. So then comes the trigger. So now, if you really think about it, then you look at, why am I thinking about this person, or why am I thinking about this last relationship, or why am I thinking about this memory? Well, it's because something triggered it, whether it be a song that triggered it, or a smell that triggered it, or something had to have triggered this feeling, emotion, to bring the memory forefront into your brain. And welcome for all the new people that have come in. Anna, welcome. So, and also too, yes, deep fried. Everyone. If you go down south, they'll deep fry pretty much anything, and Oreos is definitely one of them. And perfect example. You got Pavlov's dog, right? He did experiments on making a dog salivate. So he made triggers. He had triggers, sound, and then he would introduce sound as well as food. So you're looking at a taste, the reward, which was food, and you have the sound. And after a little while of doing this, he took the food away and he just used a sound, and that sound would make the dog salivate and be prepared to want to eat or get hungry. So this is all very, very important. And this is the reason why I'm bringing up triggers. This is why I'm bringing up triggers now, because all of us have them. the most mindful Zen person on the planet. And I'm not saying I'm the most mindful and Zen person. It's something you work on every day. It's always something you work on every day. No different than brushing your teeth or doing laundry, anything else. No matter what responsibility, being mindful is also a big part of it as well. But the point is, it's also up to you to take care of your well-being, and that is your physical, your mental, and your spiritual health. And that's something we don't always do. So, perfect example. Let's go into a spiritual trigger. If I smell incense, it brings me to multiple different memories. A different type of incense, if it's like something that I smelled like frankincense and myrrh, like in a traditional Christian or Catholic church, that will bring me back. That'll bring me back to maybe people I've lost. Maybe good, maybe not so good memory. Or if it comes up with a memorial of someone that passed away. Maybe a time frame, a holiday, if you lost someone during a holiday. So that's also potential as well. Now, I can honestly say in losing my dad at a very young age, I was 17 at the time, graduating high school. When we lost him out, it was in the summer, or close to the summer, because I was graduating high school. But for a long time, holidays were altered, and it took a long time for holidays to become better. So it's very difficult to wrap your head around making a good memory out of a situation. It takes work. And again, it takes a lot of mindfulness to do that. So now, ultimately, this is why I bring up the topic of triggers, because we all have them. I naturally have triggers that could be productive as well. If I see someone that is being mistreated or not being heard or acknowledged, I immediately want to protect them. This is why I'm pretty much colorblind. Unless if you're, honestly, unless you're an a-hole, sorry, not sorry, if you are someone that means malicious harm, I am still not going to hate you. I may not rush to help you because you don't want help and you're putting up a wall, or you're insecure, or it's problematic for you, or you don't want to accept help, or something along those lines. However, if it's someone that truly needs help, I offer it. But that's a trigger. No different than, and there's another trigger as well. And this happens whether you've had children or not. I've had this triggered myself. I've had this trigger affect me. When there's a baby crying, my ears seek out where that sound's coming from and if that baby's okay. Now, first of all, I'm a male in this lifetime. Second of all, I've never had children. Yet, we have this tribal trigger built in. I believe it's built into us. And thank you for that. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I think there's certain nurturing or tribal triggers that we have way back when, the fight or flight trigger. We still have some of that. Whether or not we were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger or chased by a mugger. We still have those triggers. They may be less dominant than back in the day, but we have the trigger. And I will tell you how triggers can actually affect you to the point of a physical reaction. I have spoken to different people that had children. They weren't actively breastfeeding, and I'm not even kidding you. I know of 2 people that started lactating at the sound of a baby. Freak occurrence. Freak occurrence, but it can happen. A physical reaction to the trigger. So just imagine that for a second. All of a sudden, you haven't had children in a while, and all of a sudden, you start lactating. Whoa, wait a minute. And it's been a while since you breastfed. So this is aspects to how triggers can affect us. Well, see, there you go. Now, Savannah is actually saying that it has happened to her. She had heard another woman's baby crying, and her milk started running. There you go. So I'm not making this stuff up. This is actual fact. This happens. And also, Anna had also experienced it as well, and her baby was already in daycare. So this was quite a while after breastfeeding. So this is a perfect example of how a trigger can really wrap around you, can really connect with you, can really grab a hold of you. And she was at McDonald's. Go fig. But this is a big part of it. Of what happens with good and bad triggers and how triggers can affect you. Okay? The smell of smoke, for example. To this day, if I smell pipe tobacco, if I smell a pipe, I think of my father. Because my father used to smoke a pipe every now and then. And I can even tell you what kind of tobacco he used to smoke. He used to smoke apple tobacco. So there was a fruity scent to, like, this apple scent coming from his tobacco whenever he smoked. And he didn't smoke often, but I remember it like it was yesterday. And I lost my father in 1985. And to this day, I can still remember. So again, that's not really a trigger that I would change. And also, too, in retrospect, my father died of lung cancer. So it could be, that is a perfect example of a trigger could be positive or negative. Like, for example, a trigger according to smell. It could be anything that resembles a smell of an abuser. It could be alcohol, drugs, tobacco, aftershave, perfume, any smells that resemble a place or situation where the abuse occurred. Now, this doesn't mean necessarily abuse. It could be a wonderful memory. Your favorite memory could have been by the beach, for example. I know that whenever I travel, like I remember when I went to South Africa, and I've gone to other places. I've been to Arizona, and I've been to Nevada, and places of where desert is, and then you don't smell the ocean. But I will tell you this. Flying over New England or flying over the ocean, and I swear to you, it's crazy. I could smell the ocean. I could smell getting closer to the ocean. And you're in a plane in controlled atmosphere. It's a controlled climate. And I could smell the ocean. So, you know, that's a good trigger because I happen to love the ocean and I happen to be very, very connected with the ocean and being a person that lives in the ocean state. There you go. But this is part of the experience. So now we have all these potential triggers. You have touch, anything to do with a touch, whether it's a texture or whether it's like I know people have triggers with texture of food. They won't eat certain food because of it's a texture. It doesn't look appetizing to them. They get triggered because they look at the texture and go, oh, I don't know about that. There are people that I know, I'm not mentioning any names, that, for example, like there's a Portuguese stew made out of octopus. It's not necessarily a delicacy in the European culture. It's not really a delicacy, especially in Portugal, because I've had octopus quite often. And I like that it's made with red wine and potatoes and just don't mind me if my mouth starts salivating because the stuff is awesome. It's not rubbery. The texture, if it's done properly, is absolutely delicious. But there are members of my family that do not and will not eat it. However, my niece will eat it out of my plate. She loves the stuff. So that's important too. Now, also on the good side of the triggers as well, there are still, and oh, here's a good. This is an interesting experience, and this actually did happen. I was walking through the mall, and this happened a long time ago. I was in my 20s, and I'm no longer my 20s. But I was in my 20s, and I was walking through the mall, and I smelled this aroma. It was absolutely, it was magnetic, this smell. It was a female perfume, and I can't even remember what the name of the perfume is, but I can remember the scent of it itself. So like, that's the funny part. So here I am, and I'm walking through the mall, and I'm smelling, I get a whiff of this scent. I walk through it. You know how sometimes if someone's spraying perfume at the perfume counter, you walk by and you just catch a little bit of the scent, right? Like secondhand scent. Well, go figure, I smell the scent. I'm like, oh my God, that smells awesome. I got to find out who's wearing this. Now I'm in a mall. Granted, yeah, that's going to sound a little crazy. And yeah, you know, for the sake of sharing Einstein's theory of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, I'm okay. And also too, the fact of there is a fine line between genius and insanity. And if you've noticed on my social media, a lot of people that are more highly intelligent sleep like crap, eat like crap, very restless, and they have studies on this. So that's part of where I get as part of my insane intelligence, I guess, mad scientist aspect, whatever. So now I needed to find out where this scent was coming from. So I, like a bloodhound, I searched out that scent. And I found the source of that scent. Now, fast forward. The scent was on a very seasoned older woman. Okay? And now, since I actually searched her out, me being who I am, I had to go ahead and tell her that she smelled absolutely lovely. I didn't say exactly how I felt because now I'm seeing the source. I don't know if she would appreciate what I was thinking at the time. And I have another experience I can share with the auditory trigger as well. But what ended up happening was I went up to her and I said, I just want to let you know that your perfume you smell absolutely beautiful. You smell absolutely lovely. And I just wanted to ask you what the perfume was. And she told me what it was, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the perfume was. Again, that's going back like 20 years ago. But she blushed, she said thank you, and then she told me the perfume. Now granted, also perfume changes on biochemistry. So on your skin, your scent will change to your own chemistry. I'll try something, a cologne or an oil or something, and it automatically changes to something else. Well, thank you for that. But the thing was, that was interesting. It was interesting. It was an interesting experience and something I could share with you regarding this show. 20 years later, I could share this lovely, actual true story. So now, another true experience about triggers was I was in Florida, and I was there with my girlfriend at the time, and we were on vacation, and I was lounging by the pool. And I forget where she was at the moment. I think she was inside getting showered up or something because we were going to go out to dinner. But as I'm sitting there lounging by the pool, I all of a sudden hear, "Excuse me, love, do you have the time?" And I'm like, my eyes are closed, mind you. And I'm thinking, ooh, that accent sounds lovely. I didn't open my eyes yet. Now when I open my eyes, now granted, again, I was younger. And there was this again, an older woman, beautifully Rubenesque. And she was a lovely woman. In fact, we ended up talking for 45 minutes, lounging by the pool before I had to go and take a shower and get ready for dinner. But the point was, the trigger, the visual imagination that came through. This is why when they advertise with the visual cues, auditory cues. There is no such thing as smell-o-vision, but they try to emulate all those triggers. No different than, don't be surprised, way back in the day that they would waft the smell of popcorn while they're playing the little dancing popcorn boxes. Welcome to triggers. That's marketing triggers. Clickbait is a trigger. Be careful of clickbait. Clickbait could be bad. It may cause a lot of issues. But the point is, all these triggers can really affect you and manipulate and motivate you. They can motivate you, make you cry, make you laugh, make you sad, all of it. And people use these triggers, whether it's marketing, movie magic. I have cried. If I had a nickel for every time I cried during a movie, forget it. Those, the pre-requited movies, the pre-requited love, unrequited love, where you have boy meets girl, boy loses girl, and then at the last 2 minutes of it, boy finds girl, or boy never sees girl again. Oh my God, it's like rip out my heart and just twist it. But these triggers are evident everywhere. They're all over the place. Everywhere. And this is something where people don't necessarily realize. It's unconscious. It's just you get triggered, you get moved. Yes, I would be a millionaire if that's the case. And even in broadcasting, there are many times that I've become emotional. And okay, you know what? Empath. Sorry, not sorry. I am not afraid to show my emotion or to show my caring or to show my disgust or anything, because that's just the way it is. That's living life in a living life out loud and being true to who you are and being true to your life path and being true to your life purpose. So it's important for you to do that, whether people like it or not. So, hey, Don, welcome. So ultimately, this is, all right, so Savannah gets triggered when she sees little fat puppies. Now, this is the funny thing. Now, there are people that have said to me, right? Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. There are people that have said to me that I was crazy in thinking that babies and puppies smell similar. That new puppy smell, new baby smell. To me, the scent is very similar. And people look at me like, my baby doesn't smell like a little Labrador baby, a little Labrador puppy. But if you think about it, the trigger is similar. You look at something that's in baby form, it's a trigger. If I see something in the form of a baby, whether it's a baby bunny, now you could be the biggest, baddest, tough guy, and I will tell you, I have known bikers that would go out of their way to help babies, little animals, and all that. So ultimately, it's, you know, it's that, you know, like my dog, I call him a stinky dog. When he smells good, I sniff him up and give him lots of love. And when he stinks, I still sniff him up and give him lots of love. Granted, he doesn't smell as good. So that is really, really important, you know? But these are all little triggers that affect us. They trigger our memories, they trigger, and then now this is the important part too. Oh my, okay, now Anna's mother-in-law, she sniffs baby heads. Now the smell of baby is kind of like, yeah, I can't help that. I can't help that. I will say this, I can't help but to smell, just snuggle up with a baby and smell them, because they just, you know, yeah. Again, sorry, not sorry. It just is what it is. You know, the babies are cute. I don't care what, and a little chubby baby. Oh my God, the Gerber baby. In fact, I saw recently what the Gerber baby, who the Gerber baby was. And this woman, which is well in her elder years, she was a Gerber baby, and she still looks like the Gerber baby. She still looks like the Gerber baby. The facial features are similar, except of course, time has elapsed. So she's more seasoned nowadays, you know? But this is all part of triggers. You can change or alter the triggers that you receive or that you get. So now, let's say, for example, someone goes ahead and criticizes you. Look at you. They use negative speak or whatever. You're to this, you're to that. There are multiple ways that you can counteract that. You can just avoid it because you know whether it's the truth or not. Or you can engage in it and then cause a negative trigger. Now that could also affect you in a big way. Were all my thumbs up? I don't know, Don, but I appreciate it. Feel free to throw some thumbs up. I appreciate it. And you know, and I will say, I have to give out a shout out to Don, because this is the first time I've seen Don on a broadcast. So welcome to Inside with Moonshadow, Don. Appreciate it. So, but this is a big part of it. Now, this is being real, people. You know what I mean? It's like you can't go through life thinking that you are untouchable or unresponsive or unmanipulatable. Because we can be manipulated by anyone or anything. We're manipulated all day long. You look at your commercials and you see a burger you could have just eaten. All of a sudden, you want a flipping burger so damn bad, and you just ate. Your stomach's full, right? But you see this burger, and it's steaming. Now, I'll give you a little bit of movie magic in a second, but it's steaming. It looks gorgeous. You want to just grab that burger, two-fist that burger, and just sink your fangs in it. Well, guess what? 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10, that burger isn't a burger. It's clay. I know, because I went to college also for graphic arts. Most of the time, that is really good marketing, right? Because the burger is airbrushed clay. I'm not even talking about edible clay, which I call amorously, I call tofu, but this is actual clay. Now, not only is this clay, it's airbrushed clay, and that steam you see and those sear marks, painted, and that steam that you see, dry ice. So I don't know if that's changed. But There's movie magic involved. Like, if you think about it, as another trigger, you want to go see a movie. You see the teaser reel. What happens on the teaser reel? It's an action flick. You see all the excitement, all of it blowing. You see people blowing up. You see fight scenes. You go, wah, all this stuff. You see all of this insanity. They just showed you, unfortunately, with some movies, they just showed you the best that they got, and you might be disappointed. So again, see maybe some movie magic. And yes, gloss, airbrush, all of that. Now, a lot of supermodels, you look at a lot of modeling, right? They get airbrushed too. They get photoshopped if they have a mole or anything like that. Now, here's an example. There are certain people that actually embrace their flaws. Padma Lakshmi is one. She actually has a scar. I believe I want to say it's her right arm. I could be wrong. But she has a scar in her arm that she proudly displays. Okay? So that's Padma Lakshmi. Also too, we have Michelle Pfeiffer. Now, which Michelle Pfeiffer, gorgeous woman. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Seems like a pretty good-hearted person as well. Excellent actress. She's got a scar on her lip. She's got this interesting lip. Okay, Jewel, before she got her teeth fixed, she had like this snaggly tooth. She looked beautiful. I loved the impurities and I loved the flaws of it. But this is another example. What you see isn't necessarily what you get all the time, right? And they trigger you certain ways. I was just talking to one of my students today, and they went to see a Barbie exhibition, Barbie doll exhibition, him with his family. And they went through, now this is in Korea, mind you. So now, in South Korea, and they went through the origin of Barbie. Now let's just look at marketing from that standpoint, and triggers from that point. In the good sense of it, they wanted to empower women, empower girls to thinking that they can do whatever they want. Career Barbie, airline attendant Barbie, all this stuff. Barbie had a Corvette. She didn't have a Yugo, mind you, people. She had a Corvette, a pink one, no doubt. So she didn't fool around. She had the best of everything. And she was a career woman. Even Ken didn't get the same play as Barbie did. But the point of that was, though, it's triggering your inner need to want to be acknowledged, to be accepted, and all that. And to the point where a lot of younger girls start to get image issues because the original Barbie was white. She wasn't colored. She didn't have any kind of color to her. She wasn't ethnic. She wasn't international. Now look at Barbie many moons later. International, all over. They've changed it quite a bit. And that's the whole point. And now she has friends from all over the world. But this is part of triggering. This is part of the trigger where you get triggered with these things and you think, oh, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? Look at, for example, the Dos Equis guy. Now, they changed him to a younger guy because obviously a younger demographic. But the point is the older guy, Goldstein, I think his name is John Goldstein. But I know it's Goldstein or Goldman. But he was the most interesting man in the world. Right? He made you like him. He triggered you to be like distinguished and to be worldly and to do these things. Now, to be worldly and distinguished, it's not all that. It's kind of messy. And you go places that could be potentially dodgy, mind you. However, he really portrayed a really good image on that. But this is all part of it. So now we get triggered all the time. So now this is where, and this is, I'm going to go into the changing of the triggers. You have the ability and the power to change a trigger. For example, one possible technique you can utilize is, there was a song that I really, really loved this song, loved it. It reminded me of an old relationship, and I was sad and horribly, it didn't end well. It ended too soon. But this particular song, I love this song. So instead of never hearing that song again, I exposed myself to that song. And I would expose myself to the song. And I would expose it again. Not in a traumatizing, scared straight kind of way, but I would continue, like I would hear it on the radio. And that was spirit or source or the universe kind of reminding me, hey, listen, you really love this song. Eventually you have to you have to come to terms with the memory behind the song. You have to let go of this. You have to change the script. You have to change the story behind it, because it wasn't in your control. So after a long time of being exposed to the song, I started to realize, wow, this song is a beautiful song. Now today, 2017, I can hear that song, and I still have some of that memory of the old, of those memories, but they're not as traumatic. It's more from a third person perspective. So these are some techniques that you can utilize when you involve with a memory. If it's a locational memory, you may never want to go to that place again because it was so traumatic or harmful, or it was so awesome that you never want to experience it again. You want to encase it in a shadow box and never experience it again because that was so perfect, that was so awesome. There's problems with both of those extremes because nothing is ever perfect, right? So looking at that, revisit those memories, go to those locations again. Reminisce. Take the negative experience and change the trigger and say, look, that was then, this is now. I'm no longer that same person. And even some of you that have been here from the beginning of the broadcast are not the same person. Wow. Isn't that crazy? From the beginning to now, you may have read something in the chat or heard something that I said, and I may have triggered something for you to make you think, to make you expand, to make you rethink what's going on. Okay? So you may think differently after the fact. You may have your own opinions and experience of what you've seen or heard or felt or were triggered to. Now, with this show and with this broadcast, it's a free thinking, safe environment. So if you are someone that wants to see through things or wants to know how something ticks or wants to share your opinion, even if it's not an opinion that is popular, it's a safe environment to share it. As long as you're not speaking out of malice or speaking out of negativity in a horrible way. This is a safe environment. So this is a big part of how we get triggered. So you have the power to change the trigger. Now, as an example, and this I've done this with many people as well. I've had this happen. Clients I've worked with, they had extensive triggers, deep triggers, and they wanted to change things. They wanted to change things, but they're so used to the devil you know, as opposed to the devil you don't know. Right? So this is the metaphor and what the tool I used with them. And it was a common household click pen. Now here's another challenging question for you all. I basically took the pen, put it in my hand, and said, this is a button that could change your life immediately. Right now, you can change your life to the life that you've always wanted. All you have to do is press that button. Now, guess what? I can honestly tell you from my experience, and I've been doing this for well over 30 years. It's now, I think, 32 or 33 years. I have told you, I have said it, and I've seen it, and I've experienced it. If you want to say 100 people, let's minimize it down to 10 for mathematical purposes. Do you know 9 out of 10 people that I've brought this experience or this challenge to did not press the button because they're familiar with the devil they know. They didn't want to change their triggers. They didn't want to change their lives. And I have been stubborn that way myself. And sometimes it takes a good long look in the mirror to realize the trigger needs to change. Your life has to change. Okay? So only one of those 10 people, only one of those 100 people, whatever, 1,000 people, whatever, would do this. Only one. So think about it, you know? And again, very much, and I brought this metaphor about the Matrix as well, is once you've seen something, you can't unsee it, right? Everyone click, click, exactly. And this is where I know we're coming up to the end of the broadcast. So, but this is reaching out to all of you to say, really, to think about it. If you really think about this, you have the power to make some changes. There are certain things you cannot change. And there are certain things that you can change. Now, there is the Serenity Prayer, which is one of my favorite prayers, and I'm not going all religious on anyone, but I believe it's a very, very profound spiritual prayer. Now, you can say the Creator, you can say God, you can say whichever you choose, but it's grant me the serenity to change what I can, accept when I can't, and to know the difference. Now, granted, I'm paraphrasing it, but the point is, you have the choice. You have the ability to click that button. Even Staples has an easy button. Now, granted, the easy button isn't connected to anything, but metaphysically or spiritually, if you click that button. Hey, Tina. Welcome, welcome. But this is what it's all about. So why did I bring up triggers today? Because all of us have them. Some of the best people in the world have triggers. We have a certain person in the world in a very powerful position that someone says something, all of a sudden 140 characters of ridiculousness happens. I'm not going to mention names. And I'm not trying to protect the innocent. This is just kind of like leaving it to your imagination. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But the point is, it's a trigger. Sometimes you have to think a few seconds before hitting that trigger or realizing, is that trigger helpful or is it hurtful? Should you post that? Should you post that or not post that? Sometimes it takes a little bit of thought to say, am I going to offend someone for the wrong reason or offend people for the wrong reasons? Sometimes you need to kind of think about that. So this is my challenge to you. Look at yourself. I don't have to know about it. None of us have to know about this. Look at yourself and look at your own triggers. Look at what affects you. Look at what triggers you in a positive way. Look at what triggers you in a negative way. Now, if it's a positive, beautiful, wonderful memory, hold on to it, embrace it, and keep it close to your heart. If it's a negative thing that's not going to motivate you or move you to the next step to the bigger, better position where you belong, higher purpose, or better place in your life, change the trigger. Clip that wire on that trigger or that switch. Change it, because only you can really truly change it. I can't say anything to you to make the change. You have to do it yourself, because we all know that saying, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So only you can make that change. Something to think about. Now, I'm going to close up this broadcast, but I want to say thank you so much for all of you for being here. For all the new peeps, we've got Don in the house. Tina Lynn, haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you. Of course, the usual suspects. We got Savannah, we got Anna, we got Michael. Thank you for all of you being here. I appreciate and love you guys dearly for spending time with me, spending over an hour with me every week. So I want to thank you for being here and spending time with me here on Insight with Moonshadow. You are all my inspiration. This is why I share my experiences and listen to your experiences, because we're all part of the same tribe, in my opinion. So if you feel guided to connect and support with my vision or my movement, you feel free to join. And I still don't have a name for it yet, but I don't know if it's Team Insight, Team Moonshine, I don't know what it is, but we still have to figure out what that is. But the point is, if you feel guided to support and be there, just send good juju. Even that alone is fantastic. Anything that you share or anything that you post, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And you could also follow and subscribe to all my social media. You'll have my details on my YouTube channel, as well as Phoenix Rising, healingarts.com, and moonphoenixrising.com. As always, be strong, be amazing, be you. And only you can do that. Thank you so much, guys. Lots of love and light to you. See you next week.